age-old debate of nature versus nurture that has plagued psychologists for decades has one clear answer: nurture. Of course, nature had a hand in it, but at the end of the day, you're made up of who made or raised you. If you need proof of that, look at your friends. The one whose parent never really pressured them likely struggles to keep pushing when things get hard. The friend who bends over backwards to make others happy probably grew up being treated like a burden. Babies learn by example, and children are extremely susceptible, so of course growing up with emotionally immature parents would affect someone even into adulthood. Know that it is completely normal to be hurt the way that you have been. You're not alone, and with some time and dedication, you can absolutely overcome the issues that were given to you. Now, I would like to start this episode off with a few disclaimers. I know this episode is about advice on how to overcome these issues, but please understand, I am not a licensed psychologist. The stuff in this episode is from my own experiences and my own research. Please do your own research or consult a licensed psychiatrist. Most of the advice I'm going to give you is just going to be mental work about changing the wording in your own head, and that stuff is relatively safe to do without consulting someone. But again, please do your own research. A second disclaimer is I want to say I understand how easy it is to get bogged down in being mad at how your parents impacted you and your development. I did the same thing for a long time. I was like, well, she did this to me, meh. But it is so incredibly important for you and your healing for you to not focus on that. I know how easy it is to focus on that. I know how easy it is to be bitter. But all it is going to do for you is prevent your healing. It is important to acknowledge what they did to you and focus on healing and overcoming it instead. As unfair as it is, even if your issues are their fault, they are now your problem to solve, and focusing on where they came from is only going to prevent you from actually putting in the work to get better. Now, the final disclaimer I have for this episode is, doing research for this episode, it was really emotional for me, and I had to take a lot of breaks because a lot of the stuff that I was reading, I was like, hey, that hurt my feelings, like real bad. So please just make sure you're in a good mental place to listen to this. I know it's not like bad, but like looking back on the way that I used to be and like realizing how easy the work I've done is, it's really sad for me. And another thing, please be careful when and where you listen to this. My mom caught me recording episode 2, and I had to wait like a week or 2 before recording this one because I was in trouble and I had to wait for her to leave the house. So please be careful where you're listening to and recording these, or not recording, but listening to these episodes, and take care of yourselves, okay? Now, as I mentioned briefly during the disclaimers, most of the stuff I'm going to talk about in this episode is going to be mental work. A lot of it is just focusing on yourself and figuring out what you can do in your own brain. So a lot of it is going to be working on wording, reminding yourself that your value is not dependent on what other people think of you, and remembering that what you tell yourself mentally will impact you. So for example, if you think something like, I don't deserve you, you will legitimately think that you do not deserve your partner. But if you think, what did I do to deserve you, you can still acknowledge that you think your partner is amazing and you're so surprised that you have them, while acknowledging that you still did the work to deserve them. Another thing you can do mentally is separating your love for your parents from your personal emotions. Remember that you love your parents, and even though they are your parents, that does not inherently mean that they are correct. But like I said in the disclaimers, do not hold on to contempt for your parents. All that will do is prevent your healing. Now, of course, there's also the solution that if the situation is really bad and you have any opportunity to, move out. If you can, move out. Oftentimes there is affordable housing in your towns or cities. You just have to investigate for it a little bit. I know where Austin's is. If anyone wants to know, I can text you about it. But like, put a little bit of research in if you have the opportunity to and you really do need it. That is always an option. It is really hard to heal in a place where you are still being hurt. So if your parents are still keeping up with these same behaviors that hurt you in your childhood, sometimes the best and only option for you is to move out. Okay, for the rest of this episode, I am going to be going down the different parenting types and how to recover from them, be giving you things that you might think and things to do instead. I'm also going to do a lot of talking about attachment styles, because attachment styles are often a direct result of this, and they impact how you interact with everyone, so they'll be the most hands-on work you can do. And then I'm going to have a very brief aside about codependency. Even though I've read a lot about codependency, I don't think I can articulate the advice that I've read well enough, but I'm going to give you guys the source that I got most of my information from and why I like that source, and then that will be the end of this whole series. And hopefully you will have learned something from it, and hopefully it will have been helpful for you. So that first grown-up child of an emotionally immature parent is going to be the ones of the driven and controlling parent. These are the ones that tend to avoid their emotions and have those perfectionist tendencies. Now you're going to hate what I have to say. You have to sit in your emotions. Now, I used to be the same way. I would intellectualize my feelings instead of feeling them. I'd be like, why do I feel like that? Why? Until I had an answer. And then I'd be like, okay, problem solved. No, it's not. You have to sit in your emotions. And if you're wondering what sitting in your emotions and actually feeling them feels like, understand that emotions are also called feelings because there's a physical bodily reaction to feeling them. You should feel them. And I know there's some people sitting there being like, well yeah, duh. But I also know there's probably some people sitting there going, what? Trust me, I get it. I was the same way. I was like, what do you mean? Like, the first time I, felt an emotion, I was like, I don't like this. This is weird. Why is it doing this? I promise it helps you in the long run. It gets better. A huge part of that perfectionism is that your fuse is so short because you're constantly irate from all the emotions you're keeping in. So when you actually sit through them and feel them, your fuse is going to be longer and your perfectionist tendencies will go down. Another really important thing is establish a work-life balance. I see you picking up your coworkers' shifts every time they ask you to. Stop doing it. Feel free to take those 2 days off for yourself. It is okay. You're given 2 days off for a reason. Do it. Both of those will help you create that longer fuse to help with your perfectionism. But also, when it comes to that perfectionism, remember all the mistakes you've made, like the little ones. Did they really matter in the grand scheme? And I'm sure you've made some mistakes that have mattered in the grand scheme, but everyone does that. It's normal. It's the plot of almost every single coming-of-age book to ever be created. Like, even Harry Potter is the result of a mistake, because if Voldemort had just thought for 3 seconds and not attacked the Potters on Halloween, the entire plot of the book wouldn't have happened, because Harry Potter never would have become the chosen one, and Voldemort would have remained powerful forever. It was a self-fulfilling prophecy as a result of a mistake. So I'm not kidding when I say almost every YA book ever is the result of a mistake. They're normal. We're humans. It doesn't make you bad. It makes you human. Now, with that same grace, extend it to the other people that you are pushing your perfectionist tendencies onto. And even if it's hard for you to extend them that grace, remember how your parents pushing their perfectionism on you made you feel. Do not turn around and do that to your loved ones. And I promise I'm not just yapping. I'm taking my own advice. I might be slow about it. I might be struggling, but I am taking my own advice and I am learning, and I can assure you that the stuff that I was just talking about has made me a better, happier, healthier human being. And I'm actually having a normal, healthy relationship right now. It's weird. Next up are going to be those that grew up with these emotional parents. They're going to have huge emotional dysregulation from the flip-flopping they experienced in their childhood. They're going to struggle very much with depression and anxiety, and they're going to have spent so much of their childhood just trying to maintain peace that their own concept of their own personality and all of that is going to be vastly skewed. So the biggest thing I can recommend for these people is make sure you're reconnecting with yourself. Growing up with these parents creates all sorts of emotional dysregulation, and it is really hard to build up yourself when you're too busy protecting yourself. So the biggest thing I can recommend, take yourself on dates, go paint pottery, go to Barnes & Noble and find a book you think might be fun, and then sit on a bench in the middle of nowhere and read the book. Fall in love with yourself and learn to take care of yourself. This is going to regulate your nervous system and help reconnect it with your brain. It's also going to help with that depression and anxiety. Some recommendations I have for these people is shadow work books or inner child stuff. These are huge, helping you figure out who you are and reconnect with yourself on a personal level. They're very important, and a lot of the times the exercises in them are going to seem stupid. I think I have a shadow work journal that's like, close your eyes and we're going to imagine that you are walking up to a tree in the middle of the forest, and it's like this whole guided narrated thing. And I remember the first time I was listening to it, I was like, this is stupid. And then the next time I was having a panic moment, I sat there and I imagined the tree, and it actually helped a lot. So the shadow work stuff, the inner child stuff, it might seem stupid, but I promise it'll help you reconnect with yourself. And just make sure that above all else, when you are trying to recover from growing up with one of these parents, that you are taking care of yourself and that you are learning to love yourself, because your love for yourself is going to be super, super critical to you being able to reconnect with those emotions that you disconnected from to protect yourself as a child. The next type is going to be those that grew up with rejecting parents. These are the ones that are most likely to continue the cycle because they have only ever experienced rejection. All they know how to do is reject, including rejecting themselves and their own emotions. They box themselves off from their own emotions, and when people try to come to them with stuff, they box down as well. They are often seen as having a lack of empathy and are sometimes even referred to as narcissists. Please understand, if you grew up with this type of parent, that does not mean you are a narcissist. You might be, but odds are you just have some narcissistic traits. And even if you are a full-blown narcissist, it is possible for you to overcome that. It is possible for you to learn to be better. The biggest thing that they're going to need to learn is to have more empathy. It's to quite literally be able to put themselves in other people's shoes. And I know that sounds stupid. It sounds like something that you might even have, but it is super, super important to have empathy, especially when you're trying to recover from this parenting style. You almost need to overcompensate with your level of empathy, with your level of learning, so that you can learn to have empathy for yourself. So my recommendation for these people is to watch kids shows about empathy. Almost every single kids show has an episode about being empathetic towards others, understanding that other people have struggles, giving them something because they want it, and make sure you do not veer into people-pleasing territory. I would like to make it clear you don't want to overcompensate too much, because then you'll have another set of problems you need to deal with. But these shows are very good at teaching children empathy, and everyone is capable of having empathy. And if you're sitting here like, I don't want to watch a kids show, they're actually really entertaining. I was babysitting the other day, and the way me and this kid zoned out and watched like a whole season of BBC's Number Blocks in one sitting needs to be studied. The parents came home and they were like, hey, and I was like, hi. Did you know that they go to number block 1 million? And the dad was like, they what now? Because he'd been watching it and he'd only ever seen it go up to 6. I told him 1 million and he looked at me like I was crazy. But kids shows can be entertaining, I promise. And even if that's not entertaining to you and that's not interesting to you at all, there are guides to learning empathy online all over the internet. You look it up, there'll be thousands of YouTube videos about it because it's so important to teach children. And it is unfortunate that your parent failed you in teaching you that, but I promise even now as an adult you can learn it because you have that capability inside you. The last parenting style we're going to talk about is going to be the negligent or passive. With this one, there's just two really important things you need to remember. It is important to remember that you are human and you will make mistakes. A lot of the times these people carry around a lot of shame and a lot of guilt. You don't need to be shameful or guiltful. You were not a burden as a child, and if your parent made you feel that way, know that that is their own issues and not a reflection of you. You are not a burden. It is okay that you have these problems. You do not need to hate yourself for it, and it is okay that you've been affected by your childhood, and it is okay that there are consequences and ways that you act because of that. And as long as you are working on it to not hurt other people, you are a good person. You are doing exactly what you need to be. Doing. I can words. Another important thing to remember is also to not resent your parents. I know I've spoken about this before, but I'm going to speak about it again because it is so insanely important. And none of that like, oh, it's their first time on the planet bullshit. You do not need to not resent your parents for them. When you are working through the trauma that they gave you, understand that it is not your responsibility to make them feel like they were good parents. You're not letting go of that resentment for them. You are letting go of that resentment because if you don't let go of that resentment, it will hinder you from making progress. All that resentment is doing is hurting you. So understand that you're not letting go of it for them. You're letting go of it for you. Now we're going to get into attachment styles, and bear with me because these sections are going to be long, but your attachment styles don't just affect your romantic relationships, they actually affect all of your friendships. And the more you read up about attachment styles and the more you pay attention to how you react in situations, you will understand that your attachment style is having an impact on every single relationship in your life, down to your acquaintances, your coworkers, your managers, your friends. It will impact everything. Speaking as someone that has I think disorganized attachment, but I normally manifest as anxious attachment. Sometimes I will message my managers and they don't message me back, and I'm sitting there like, please message me back. But I don't want to spam them because I've learned from my anxious attachment, but also, please message me back. So please understand that even though these attachment styles and the way I'm talking about them are pertaining to romantic relationships, they do impact every part of your life, and the attachment styles will be very, very important towards overcoming what your parents did to you. Now, please first identify your attachment style before continuing. One important thing to remember about anxious attachment is that it's rooted in a fear of abandonment that was created in your childhood. There's always that fear that your partner is going to leave you. So please just remember that your partner did choose you. And that's a really big thing with this attachment style, is changing the wording in your head. Like I said already, the thoughts that you have a huge impact on you and your way of functioning. So let's go over some thoughts that might manifest in someone with anxious attachment and ways to rephrase them and rework them to help you get over that trauma. So they might constantly be thinking about the relationship. They're wondering what they're doing. They're wondering what's happening. When's our next date? Blah, blah. All of the words that come out of their mouth are about that relationship. Their personality becomes that relationship. Something really important to remember is that a relationship is meant to be a bonus in your life. It's like, oh, I have my life, I have this amazing life, and I have a relationship. Don't let it control you or become your personality, because that will make it so much more difficult if it is to start to disintegrate for some reason, and then you'll panic, which will probably push them further away. But if you can establish that secure attachment and you can understand that a relationship is a happy bonus in your life, but you can live with or without it, but you're really, really happy that you have it, you'll be able to have a calm reaction if something happens in the relationship that will lead to healthier and potentially a more sustained relationship. And remember that spending time without your partner is exactly what the phrase "distance makes the heart grow fonder" is talking about. Spending time without your partner is really critical towards fostering a more healthy relationship. So just keep that in mind. Another thing that these people might think of is they will focus on potential threats in a relationship. I beg you to know your worth. If someone or something has the capability to threaten your relationship, it's not a relationship you want anyways. The only thing that should ever potentially threaten your relationship is a disagreement with your partner or an action that happened with your partner. Or even just a mental health moment where they just need some time away, or you both just aren't in the right place. It should be you and your partner not being compatible for one reason or another. If someone is leaving you because there's another woman or there's another man, they're not the kind of person you want. There are other fish in the sea, I promise. And I know that's hard to grapple, so it's completely okay if you still have those moments of panic, but please know that if something poses a serious threat to your relationship and it's another person, it's probably best if you just find a different relationship anyways. Now, constantly being scared that a relationship will end will also act as a self-fulfilling prophecy. So if you're in a situation where you're imagining these threats and they aren't real, and you're constantly worried and going to your partner about it, in the long run, all it's going to do is create that distance you are trying so hard to close. Focus instead on what makes your relationship solid and unique, what makes you and your partner special. And that will remind both of you guys why you're together and help foster that stronger connection you're seeking for. Now, another thing they're going to do is try to be emotionally or physically close as possible. Oftentimes this manifests as texting very frequently. I myself am guilty of that. Now, please do not take this to mean don't text them, but also don't overwhelm them. Feel free to text them all of your cute little stories. Just remember, if they don't respond right away, it doesn't mean they hate you. It doesn't mean they don't want to be with you. It just means they're human and they have a life and they have things they need to get done. Think of it this way. If you're hanging out with your partner face to face, do you want them to be on their phone? Do you want them to be answering texts? Do you want them to be answering texts from other people while you're there? Probably not. So why do you want them to answer your text when they're potentially hanging out with other people? And no, them hanging out with other people does not mean they don't want you. It just means they have other friends. And then another one is going to be self-sacrificing personal needs for their partner. It's called being a people pleaser. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's bad for you. But this one will cause you to build resentment in and of yourself towards your partner because you're doing all the stuff for them and they're doing nothing back and they clearly don't care and they don't feel it. Think of it this way. Have you ever had a parent be like, because I gave birth to you, and you're sitting there like, I didn't ask you to give? Why do you get to hold that against me if I didn't ask you to do that? Don't do that to your partner. It's the same thing. It's not quite to the same degree, but it is the same thing. You do not get to hold it against them when it's something that you're doing without them asking. Now, if they're asking you for favors and then you ask them for a favor and they're like, I don't need to do that, that's a different discussion. But if you're just doing stuff for them because you think they need it and you're sacrificing your own needs and you're building up that resentment for them over it, please know that that is not healthy and that is not good for you. Something you could do instead is you can tell your partner what you need and then ask them what they need, and you can both help each other mutually. You can find that middle ground so that you can both be helping each other. You're both doing what the other one needs to get done. And just make sure, if you can't find that middle ground, that every once in a while you do prioritize yourself and take care of what you need and what you need to get done. Now, another thing that these people will do is use blame or guilt during an argument to get what they want. I understand that it is easier than actually feeling your emotions and actually processing them and actually talking about them. It is really hard to talk about your emotions and have a genuine conversation, but please understand that that isn't healthy to do that way. It's going to build resentment in your partner. It's going to make them feel like they're being forced to do stuff for you. And it's also going to make them feel like you aren't listening to them and their emotions. And what I mean by using guilt in an argument is they talk to you about something and you be like, well, a week ago you said you were going to do this. And it is really hard to start those kinds of conversations. So I understand when an emotional conversation is already started, taking that as an opportunity to talk about your stuff. And if you're already in an emotional state and you want to talk about your stuff, that is perfectly fine. But please make sure you resolve whatever your partner was talking about before you start talking about your stuff. Otherwise, I was going to say it's going to read as guilt tripping, but it's not even going to read as guilt tripping. It is just going to straight up be guilt tripping. If you've done that in the past, please do not hate yourself over it. Just try to be better now and understand that you are human and you are allowed to make mistakes. Now, I got 2 more on this one, and then I promise we're going to move on to a new category. But it's going to feel basically the same. All of this stuff's going to be examples and how to work through them. Acting jealous towards other people in your partner's life. You have to remember that your partner chose you. If that other person was in their life and they had the opportunity to choose that other person and they still chose you, they're gonna choose you. They're gonna keep choosing you. They should. If they are a good person and they are a good match for you, they are going to keep choosing you. So instead of being jealous and freaking out, ask your partner, hey, can we spend time together the day after you're spending time with that person? Or even that night, to remind you that they do love you and they do want you, without you having to beg them for those reminders and make them potentially feel uncomfortable. Another thing is you can also reach out to your friends to hang out during that time, so you're both spending time outside the relationship, you're both doing healthy stuff, you're both having moments with your friends. It'll be good and healthy for you to take your mind off of it. Now, the last thing they have a tendency to do is they'll become angry, even if the anger is directed inwards. It is really hard to be angry at yourself because anger is not a real emotion. Anger is a shell emotion that is covering up for something else. Say someone cheats on you and you're angry at them. The reality is you're more than likely sad or disappointed or even potentially disgusted, but you're never angry. You're not angry at them about it. Anger is your body's way of trying to protect you because your brain cannot tell the difference between physical pain and mental pain, so it releases adrenaline. Adrenaline prevents you from feeling physical pain, adrenaline will manifest as anger in your emotional pain situations, and it will protect you from feeling emotions. But please understand that anger is not real, so feel free to take a step back, figure out where that anger is coming from before reapproaching the conversation. And I understand the need to solve it right then. I get it. I completely understand, but please understand as well that not all problems need to be solved the second they manifest, and it is okay to take a second to think about them and work through it. So an important thing you're going to need to learn to do is to self-soothe. So here's going to be some common triggers in a partner's behavior and how to self-soothe from them. If they're showing you inconsistent behavior and if they're seeming distant or distracted, talk to them and try to figure out why their behavior is like this. If it's an issue in their life, try to help them if you can. Odds are something is stressing them out, and I would like to emphasize that it is important to lead with asking if something's going on in their life. If you open by asking why they're distant or their behavior has been inconsistent, they might take it as you saying they're doing something wrong, and they might get defensive. In an optimal world, they wouldn't, but of course, if we can do preemptive, preventative measures to stop an argument from breaking out, we absolutely want to. Now, another common trigger for people with this attachment style is when their partner forgets important events. Remember, you've likely forgotten important events before. We are all human. For example, me, I've forgotten my best friend's birthday 2 years in a row now. In my defense, 2 years ago, she wasn't my best friend and I didn't know. And this year, I had a fever of like 101. I woke up the next day and I was like, I missed her birthday. But my point is, people forget stuff. There's stuff happening. In both of those situations, there was a reason. Odds are, if your partner forgot, there was a reason. Please offer them some grace. And when it's like community events, like an anniversary, plan it together ahead of time. That way, neither of you are playing the game of like, oh, I think she's gonna plan it. Oh, I think he's gonna plan it. Oh, I think they're gonna plan it. Like, don't leave that up to chance. Don't leave it to like, oh, I think my partner's gonna plan it. Plan that stuff together. And remember, if this happens, you are absolutely allowed to be upset. But instead of making like snide, petty remarks, maybe just ask them what's going on. Another one is when they come home late without notification. Knowing what's going on can be really important for people with this attachment style. So just tell your partner how much it hurts when you're not communicating, or when they're not communicating with you and they're not keeping you up to date, and just let them know how important it is to you. And also remember, you don't have to wait around all day for your partner to show up. Say they're planning on showing up at 8:30. You can take a shower at 8:30. If they come home and you're in the shower, like, that doesn't make you a bad partner. You're not losing time with them. That means that you are secure in your attachment with them. You know that they're going to come home at the end of the day. You're going to see them when you get out of the shower. Like, you know, and you're comfortable and you're happy. Another thing is failing to message back when expected. Like I said previously, remember, people are people, stuff happens. Give them grace and just remind them later that you'd like them to notify you when they're going to be busy, if at all possible. Of course, if something pops up, just remember, hey, sometimes things are just going to happen, but it is perfectly okay to ask them, hey, like, I have anxiety. If you're going to be unresponsive for a long time, will you just, like, tell me? Like, it could literally just be like, hey, I need some alone time. Just let me know. And it is okay to ask your partner that. And if they tell you no, they can't do that, maybe they're not the best person for you. Now, another thing is they might fail to notice something new, like you got a haircut. Remind yourself, again, that they might have other stuff on their mind. The most important thing you can do in these relationships is remember that people are people. People need alone time. People need space. People have stuff happen. Mistakes happen. You just need to understand that people are people. You can also try to make little hints towards them, like, oh my god, like, how's your day been? Or even just flat out ask them what they think of your new hair or your new perfume. Sometimes I had it happen recently where I got my hair cut and my boyfriend looked at me and he kept making weird faces at me. And I couldn't figure out why, but he hadn't said anything about my hair yet. And I go, what do you think about my new hair? And he goes, oh my god, I thought you just styled it differently and I didn't want to tell you that I liked your new haircut if you just styled it differently. And he was like beating himself up trying to figure out whether I'd styled it differently or whether I'd gotten a haircut. And mind you, it was not a big haircut, so I do not blame him at all. But he was like beating himself up over it. So just remember, there might be a reason. You never know, and remember that everything people do is not a dig at you. People aren't inherently trying to hurt you. It is really hard to build up that knowledge and build up that awareness within yourself. But once you build up that awareness within yourself, it is going to be so amazing. Okay, for our last little section on anxious attachment, I'm going to give you some healthy self-soothing strategies that might apply to universal situations instead of specific examples like I was giving you before. An important thing is to acknowledge that you're not just upset, but you're triggered. Being able to tell the difference between when you're just upset by something and when you're triggered is very critical. If you're triggered, your emotions are going to be bigger, they're going to be stronger, they're going to be more volatile. So if you are triggered, being able to recognize that, take a step back and figure out why you're triggered is going to be very important on bringing yourself down and being able to have a healthy communicative conversation with your partner. taking time to figure out how you really feel and regulate yourself so you can respond healthily rather than emotionally. People with anxious attachment, they want to solve the problem right now. Right now. We do it right now. That's not always the healthiest solution. Now, of course, I'm not saying take a step back and talk about it 20 years from now. I'm saying take a step back and talk about it 15 minutes from now. Let your body temperature lower, let the heat leave your skin, let your heart rate slow down, think through your emotions, think about the words that you're going to say before you say them. Healthier things will come out of your mouth, less toxic things will come out of your mouth, and you'll be able to actually listen to what your partner is saying and ingest it and take care of it and take care of their emotions. Now, communicate effectively with your partner about what hurt you and what you need so it doesn't happen again. Remember to make sure that the stuff you're asking for is fair and not hurting your partner. You don't want to be out here like, I don't want you to ever interact with anyone else because it gives me anxiety. No. But be like, hey, will you let me know when you're interacting, or like not interacting with other people, will you let me know when you're going to hang out with other people one-on-one? It gives me a little bit of anxiety, and just knowing where you are and when you'll be back is calming for me. And it's okay if it changes, emphasis on it's okay if your plans change, just let me know. Also, another thing about having those healthy communicative conversations with your partner is using I think statements, or I feel this made me feel this way. I feel like you're doing this, rather than just saying you're doing this, because you're doing this is not necessarily an attack, but it can easily be perceived as one. It can immediately close off the other person's emotions to you and prevent y'all from having a healthy conversation. And yes, it sucks that you have to regulate your words when you're hurt in order to have a healthy communicative conversation, but it is very important to do. Now, the last, or two more recommendations, but one of the big recommendations is model your responses on someone that is securely attached. Find someone in your life that has a secure attachment with their partner and just copy their coping mechanisms. Be like, you're mine now. Obviously, you might have to modify them a little bit, but someone that has that secure attachment will show you a healthy way to respond to conversations, and you can use that in your own relationships to bolster them, and then when your relationships are doing better, that will in turn show you more healthy, secure, communicative ways to speak to people. The last thing is, like I said, change your thought patterns. This is called cognitive reframing. When you have a bad thought, don't just accept it, challenge it. Think about how many times in your life you've thought something, like someone's asked you a question and you thought you had the answer like that, and then you're like, nope, that's not it. If your brain can be wrong about that, your brain can be wrong about other things. Take those thoughts, those negative thoughts, those crazy, oh my God, they're gonna leave me thoughts, and challenge them with evidence that they're wrong. They're gonna leave me, okay, but they picked me. Why would they leave me when they picked me? This will show you over time that your relationship is healthy. This will help you foster that secure attachment, and it will show you that when your brain funnels those horrible thoughts into your head, your brain ain't right. Don't listen to it. Of course, like everything else, there is a spectrum with that. Please be safe. If you're not listening to your brain might be telling you something important that you do need to know. And a lot of these emotionally immature parent things is that you do have a dysregulation between your brain and your nervous system, so there is that fine line. The only point that I'm trying to make is that when your brain is just funneling purely negative stuff at you, odds are it is not correct. But again, take that with a grain of salt and understand that your brain does often know what your body needs, so keep that in mind. The next attachment style we're going to talk about is going to be avoidant. This section will be a lot shorter than the previous one because a lot of the stuff in the previous one applies to this section as well. But there is some stuff unique to this type that is important. So let's talk about some unhealthy ways avoidant attachments might regulate and how to reframe that. They often focus their attention on things they can control, like themselves and their career. This leads to them avoiding their emotions, avoiding their partner. This is going to isolate your partner and make them feel like their emotions and whatever they wanted to talk about isn't important. Instead, tell them you need a little bit to sort out your emotions, and tell them when you're ready to talk again. This does not mean you get to avoid the conversation, but you can take the time you need to sort out your emotions. I know for people with avoidant attachment, it is really hard for them to deal with their emotions. It is really hard for them to rely on other people. It is really hard for them to let other people rely on them. But know that if you do want this attachment, if you do want your partner, you're going to have to let them lean on you, and you're going to have to lean on them. So remember, talking about stuff isn't scary or bad, and it is a really critical part of having a healthy relationship. Now, another thing they're going to do is they're going to use repression to handle these bad emotions. But pushing emotions down doesn't actually make them go away. In fact, it tends to make them stronger. They just like sit in your subconscious and fester and grow stronger and more powerful until one day they just kind of boil over and you're like, actually, I hate my partner. No, you don't. No. No, you don't. Stop that. Remember, it is okay and helpful to talk to others about your emotions, and your loved ones should want to talk to you about that stuff. Just because your parents potentially pushed you away when you tried to talk about your emotions and when you tried to rely on them does not mean that everyone is going to do that to you. And if someone does that to you, know that they are not the right person for you. These people also tend not to seek support from their loved ones. Like I said, they want to help you. Let them help you. They find it terrifying to seek support from others because in the past when they tried to open up about their emotions and when they tried to seek support from others, they were pushed away, which made the emotions that they were trying to seek support for all the more terrifying and all the more real now that they had to handle them on their own, and it taught them they couldn't lean on other people. So if it is too daunting to go to your partner with these huge emotions, start with simple stuff. Teach yourself that it is okay to lean on others. Ask them for help with tasks first, like, hey, can you help me with the dishes? And then slowly start building up to that emotional stuff. Now, please understand, if you are working on this with a partner, communicate with them about the fact that you are working on this and communicate with them about the fact that you are trying so that they don't personally feel burnt out by the lack of emotional intimacy they are getting, and that they understand that you are working on it and you are trying. So here are some common triggers for people with avoidant attachment and how to self-soothe them. One is a partner wanting to get too close. Remind yourself that this closeness is a sign of a healthy relationship. There is, of course, too close, but them wanting to be close to you is usually a sign that they love you. Make sure to talk to your partner and set healthy boundaries where you both get seen, heard, and taken care of. Make sure that you are both felt needed, that you are both taken care of, and that you both get everything you need out of those boundaries that you guys are setting with each other. And I know that's like real repetitive, but it is so important to make sure that both partners are taken care of and establishing those boundaries. And it is okay to ask for your personal space, but make sure you are still allowing them an opportunity to get close to you emotionally and physically. Another potential trigger for them is a partner wanting to open up emotionally. Know that if someone is bringing up something emotional to you, it means that they want to be with you. They want you in their life. Because if they didn't want you in their life, they wouldn't bring up the emotional stuff to you. They wouldn't put themselves through the emotional turmoil of bringing that up to you if they didn't care about you and they didn't want to be in a relationship with you. It means they think your relationship is worth trying to save through whatever that emotional thing they're bringing up is. I know this is a good sign, but if you feel yourself panicking, try telling your partner it's a little overwhelming for you, but you want to listen, and see if you guys can find some sort of healthy medium where they can start to tell you information, you can take the time to process it, and still make sure that they feel seen, heard, and taken care of. Another one is going to be unpredictable situations or feeling out of control. A lot of avoidant attachment comes from the fact that they can't control their partner and they can't control their partner's emotions, and it's not that they try to control them, but it's that they can't understand them, they don't know what's going on, they don't know how to deal with them, and that makes them feel out of control, and they really, really hate that. So remember, it is okay to ask your partner to keep you up to date on plans so you can maintain a certain level of predictability, but also you have to remember that life is going to be unpredictable, and trying to regulate your partner will only lead to them feeling trapped. So if at all possible, loosen up the reins a little bit, take a deep breath, and try to figure out why that loss of control scares you so much, and work from the place of why it scares you so much rather than like scrambling to pull that control back. Another thing that is going to terrify these people is having to be dependent on others. Leaning on others is part of being a human being. I wrote in my notes, even as far back as forever, we used to hunt in packs for that exact same reason, because we were able to lean on other people. And yes, I know there's some animals out there that are lone wolves. We aren't. Humans are not lone wolves. You may be an introvert, but you are still hardwired to lean on other people, and trying to do life completely alone is only going to hurt yourself. Now, feeling like the relationship is taking up too much of their time is also a huge trigger for them. This is very real and very valid. As someone that manifests mainly as anxious attachment, even I have moments where I'm like, ooh, my relationship is taking up too much of my time. And I just reach out to my partner and I go, yo, like, we've been spending too much time together recently. It's pulling me away from my hobbies, and as much as I love hanging out with you, like, I do still need me time. And every single time my partner goes, all right, I understand, and he makes a sad face at me, and I go, oh, okay, you're cute. And he goes, thank you. And then we're fine. And I know not everyone is going to be that receptive, and I know not everyone is going to be that understanding. But again, if they're not, they're probably not the person for you. So remember that it is okay to establish those boundaries. Just make sure you are still saving and reserving some time for your partner to make them feel loved and cherished. Another thing that can be really triggering for them is being criticized by their loved ones. No loved one should be flat out criticizing you and being like, you suck. If they're doing that, tell me. I'll find them. I'll beat them up for you. You never heard that. I didn't say that. But if they're giving you constructive criticism, know that that means they want what's best for you. If someone is not giving you constructive criticism, that either means they think you're perfect or they don't care enough to try to help you. Because odds are people don't think you're perfect. Odds are people have found something, they're in a new pair of eyes, they found something in whatever you're doing that they think you could fix or that other people would enjoy if you fixed. And if they tell you, that means they want you to flourish, and that means they want you to grow. So just understand that they're not coming from a bad place. Take that advice, write it down in your notes app, and then approach it again once that heavy anxiety and even necessarily anger goes away. Then you can look at their criticism and see if it's genuine, and you don't necessarily have to take it, but just know that they are coming from a genuine place and not trying to hurt you. Now, another one is feeling like they're being judged for being emotional. It is really hard for people with avoidant attachment to open up emotionally. So if they feel like they're being judged for being emotional, odds are they're going to hunker down, go back to square one, not be willing to be emotional. And frankly, if someone judges you for being emotional, remove them from your life, or at least have a very serious conversation with them about why they felt the need to do that. That being said, people won't normally judge you for being emotional. It shows that you care and you feel, and it should prompt others to try to accommodate what you need in that moment. Know that if you are being emotional with the right person, they will hold your hand and they will be there for you, and it is not a bad thing that you are emotional. It is completely understandable and it is completely healthy. Now, another one is if their partner is being demanding of their affection. There are some situations where a partner is legitimately being demanding of affection, and that's a conversation that needs to be had and boundaries that need to be set. But there is a possibility you're just perceiving them as being demanding, so remember that they love you and they want to spend time with you. Tell them when you're going to be busy, let them know when you're not going to be able to respond, and even just let them know if you need personal space, and then give them times where you'd be happy to make time and space for them so that they know that you cherish them and you just need a minute. You just need your own personal space and alone time, which again is perfectly acceptable. Last but not least for the avoidant attachment is healthy self-soothing strategies. One is going to be resisting the repression of emotions. If you feel a rush of emotions, do not rush to ignore it. Allow yourself to feel as much of it as you can and work through why you're feeling it. It will help you in the long run. I talked about it briefly in like other sections. Don't intellectualize your emotions. Feel them. It is really good for you and will help you be able to understand and communicate better with people later on. Expressing your needs and desires to loved ones is very important. If you need personal space, just say that much. And if leaning on people is overwhelming, start with small stuff and work your way up. Please, however, make sure you're not using this to test people and be like, oh, if they don't help with the small stuff, then they're not someone I can trust. Understand that people might have stuff going on, and if you ask them to help with small stuff, they might not have the time for that. So try multiple times before you're just discounting someone entirely. On allowing yourself to trust others, the same thing. Start with small stuff. Work your way up to the hard stuff. You don't have to open up your entire heart in one sitting in order for you to be making progress. So it is okay to take baby steps. Another one, allowing yourself to be dependent on others, same as the other two. Baby steps is perfectly fine. Take personal space when you need it. This is really important. People with avoidant attachment tend to be introverts, and they tend to not give themselves their alone time and their own space, and then they build up resentment for their partners. So remember, you're allowed to take a step away to work through your emotions as long as you return and let everyone, including yourself, fully express what they're feeling. Do not run, do not suppress your emotions, but feel free to take that deep breath and a step back to work through whatever you need. And also, if you just need alone time to recharge, feel free to ask for that. If your partner is unwilling to give it to you, please do not stay with them. And then challenging your inner critic, similar to the other one, when it says something about you, find evidence that it's wrong. because there's almost always proof and evidence that it's wrong. Just because your brain tells you something does not mean it's correct. If your brain can be wrong about things like other people's pet names, then it can be wrong about things about you. You are always going to be your own worst critic. Don't let that control you. Now, that last attachment style of disorganized attachment, no, it is flip-flopping wildly between the other two, so the advice I have for you guys will be contained in the section talking about the other two. So their tips and tricks will help you. There's not really much else on this specific attachment style other than give yourself grace, because a lot of the things do line up, but a lot of them are contrasting as well. Find out what works best for you, take care of yourself, take deep breaths, and do what you need to do to help you recover from how you've been hurt. Okay, now really quickly, we're going to go over 6 ways a securely attached person might respond to being triggered. They're going to talk to loved ones about how it made them feel. Now, make sure when you're talking to loved ones about how it made you feel that you're not like shit-talking your partner, because that's no-go. That is not going to help. That's going to make them think badly of your partner, and then when you try to talk to them about good stuff, they're going to have that same response by your partner. So just be careful with that one. But talking to your loved ones about how you feel with I feel statements or I think statements can be really helpful to working through what happened to you in that situation. Now, removing yourself from emotional situations where you feel out of control. Now, this is not the same as just walking away when someone is trying to talk to you. But this is going, hey, I need a breather. Can we revisit this in like 5 to 10 minutes once my head is more level? That is completely acceptable. That is completely understandable. And if they're not understanding of that, we don't like them. But please understand, if someone is constantly abandoning hard conversations, it's not healthy for them or for you. Another one is writing down what they feel or think. It's so middle school, but like, journal, man. Do a journal. It's very useful. Getting emotions out in a healthy and clean way. Just be careful if you are talking bad about someone in a journal, which it is perfectly okay to need to have a moment where you just bleh, like you word vomit to yourself, and you might potentially say something mean about someone else. As long as you don't mean it, it is okay if you need to have that moment. Just be careful though, if you do put that in the journal, not to put it somewhere they can see it, and never to actually say those words to them, especially if you do not mean them. Other one is trying meditation or therapy. I've recommended this for all the episodes. Go to therapy. It's fantastic. But if you can't afford therapy for some reason, meditation is great. Just even if you're just like laying down in child's pose and just sitting on the ground for like 5 minutes, it can be so calming and so healthy for you. Another one is working out, releasing those endorphins, lowering that stress. The gym is good for you. However, I will say, do not let it control you. I can understand how easy it is if you miss a day at the gym to be like, I'm a failure. No, you're not. No, you're not. Don't do that. Don't do it. And then, of course, being aware of your emotions and how they interact. It's understanding how your thoughts affect your emotions and how your emotions affect your thoughts. Being careful, thinking about what you're going to say before you say it, and making sure that you are taking care of yourself and those around you. Of course, that one's going to be the hardest one to learn, but once you achieve that, you're going to be like, I'm so cool, man. I'm so good at this. Now, on to codependency recovery. I am going to give you just like a really short and quick list of things to remind yourself when you're having a codependent moment and things to think about in your day-to-day, because these are the thoughts that helped me the most recover from my codependency, and then I'm going to recommend a book to you. But I'm not going to talk extensively about codependency because it is such a complicated thing and it is such a complicated relationship with your brain that I think someone that has more expertise would be better handled to talk about it, which is why I'm going to recommend a book that you can get, I think for like $12. And I got mine at half price books for like $5, but they're extremely helpful, and that book has helped me a lot. But some things to remind yourself of if you are codependent or you're going through a codependency issue: you cannot change other people if they do not want to be changed. And you cannot make people want to change if they don't want to change. That is not a reflection of your self-worth. Your inability to force other people to change does not mean that you're bad or that you're not good. It just means that they are stubborn and they are human. And don't try to out-stubborn them, because if people do not want to change, nothing can make them change. The only person you can change or truly affect is you. Remember, most of all, and this is the most important thing to keep in your memory, you are not responsible for the mistakes the people around you make. You are your own person and they are theirs. Unless you told them to do something that was the mistake they made, that's not your responsibility. Just because one of your loved ones does something stupid does not mean that you made a mistake. Understand that their actions are not a reflection of you. Now, if you want to know more about codependency, or the stuff that I was saying was making you go, whoa, 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 I highly recommend Codependent No More by Melody Beattie. I found that other books about getting rid of codependency have a tendency to demonize one type of codependent, which is considered the narcissistic codependent. This book does not demonize the narcissistic codependent. It is very understanding of both types, and it has stuff to help both types. It is a little praise gaudy at moments, but if that doesn't bug you, then it is a fantastic resource. And if it does bug you, I highly recommend you do your own research to find a different book. And I will let you know it is not extensive in the book, so if that's a little iffy for you, you should be perfectly fine. And now I would like to do some final disclaimers for this episode. The first one is going to be with mental health stuff. It is always finding a balance. If you go too far in one direction, you will flip-flop to the other side. So if you go too far in the other direction on avoidant attachment, you're going to end up with anxious attachment. So be careful to find that medium. Be careful to find a balance that is comfortable and safe and happy and healthy for you, and comfortable, safe, happy, and healthy for your partners. Again, remember not to get bogged down in hating your parents, but also don't let that flip-flop towards hating yourself. Solving mental health is a really, really finicky game, and for every statement there is a flip side that is like, hey, be careful though. So just, like I said, be careful, do your own research. Again, I'm not a licensed psychiatrist. I know there's like spliced in clips of a licensed psychiatrist in this episode, but that's not me. And I did not consult her on the scripts of these episodes, nor is she watching them before I post them. So again, take everything I say with a grain of salt, and please do your own research. Please take care of yourself and understand that you may not see immediate progress when working on these things. It is going to take time, it is going to take concentrated effort, and you're going to apologize more often than you have ever apologized before. But know that that is growth, and that is healthy, and that means you are getting better, and you are taking care of yourself, and you are taking care of your loved ones, and that is exactly what we want to see. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this journey, and I'm sorry these episodes took so long to put out. They were a lot for me to go through emotionally, and they were a lot for me to research. This is something I just recently did for myself, like 6-ish months ago, and it is hard. It's gonna be heartbreaking. It took a heartbreak for me to finally get my stuff together and work on this, and as happy as it makes me to be able to share this with other people and to be able to research this stuff so that I can look at it and I can understand it for myself, it is devastating, quite frankly. But I am grateful for the opportunity I had to put all this stuff together, and hopefully it helps even one person out there make their journey easier to go through than my journey was. But thank you guys so much for listening to House Not a Home. I hope it was helpful in some capacity, and I'm gonna start crying if I don't stop now. So yeah, this has been the end of House Not a Home, and thank you again so much for listening. Bye!